Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Checkride Chat. Again, my name is Wally,
I'm Jason.
and again, we're trying this remote recording thing. I'm no video editor, but that's what I get to do. So, if any of you out there in YouTube land or wherever have suggestions for video editing, I'm all ears because we're trying to make this really good. Or I guess I'm all eyes with video editing, right? So today. We're in the middle of the dive into the ACS. We're going to take a break from that. We're going to talk a little bit, a little hodgepodge of stuff. I had something come up in a check ride just the other day, and it was we didn't end up doing the check ride because the applicant did not qualify. So we talked about this earlier. We have to pass three tests to begin a check ride. First of all, we have to be qualified. Uh, Current and all that stuff. And based on the fact that we are showing up for the check ride, I think that's a given that we believe we are qualified. We also have to qualify the airplane. It has to be an airworthy airplane, and we've talked in depth about that. Third thing we have to do is qualify the applicant. Make sure the applicant meets the requirements for this new rating or certificate, has all the required documents, and so forth. So this was a multi-engine commercial add-on. So this young man had a commercial pilot certificate. He also held a flight instructor certificate, and he was getting his multi-engine rating, which is one of the less uh, stringent as far as qualifying because there's really no time requirement. There's no knowledge test. So I think us as examiners, we see this and we go, oh, this one will be easier. Anyway, so I introduced myself and I said, all right, so we're doing a multi-engine check ride today. Yes, sir, that's correct. And I said, okay, so I need to see from you a government issued photo ID, a pilot certificate, a medical certificate, and logbook endorsements. And he pushes this whole pile of stuff over to me, and he's got a valid driver's license. And the certificate that he presented to me was a flight instructor certificate. And I looked at it and I kind of looked at the other stuff and thinking to myself, okay, I need to actually see the pilot certificate. But I'm going through the other stuff and he has all the other stuff and I handed him back the flight instructor certificate. I said, no, I need a pilot certificate. And he looked at me and he said, well, that's the most current one I have. And I said, but this is a flight instructor certificate. A pilot certificate is actually different from a flight instructor certificate. So you CFIs know this, but those who aren't might not know this. As a flight instructor, you actually have two plastic certificates in your pocket. You have a pilot certificate that will probably say commercial pilot. I'd say ATP, but something like that, and then you're gonna have a separate one, which is your flight instructor certificate, and to act as a flight instructor, you've gotta have both of those in your pocket, and in fact, the flight instructor certificate will say on there, "Valid only when accompanied by pilot certificate number so and so." The young man didn't have it. And he just looked at me and I just looked at him and there was the awkward silence. And I don't know what he was expecting from me. I think he was expecting me to problem solve. And I, I, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I want to help. I do want to help, but I do need to see some uh, forward motion from the applicant on like what can we do to make this check ride happen today, and there was none of that from the applicant. So we packed up and went home. So I mean, what does that mean? Well, a he didn't get his check ride done. B, somebody else who wanted a check ride that day didn't get their check ride done. And yeah, I went home. Um, and I guess my frustration wasn't so much the fact that he didn't have the certificate, but I didn't see any problem solving uh, initiative from him. Like, what can we do? Because there may have been some things that we could do. Now, I mean, I assume he probably didn't live extremely far away from the flight school. We have
Hmm.
flight schools all over the place in Houston, and most people don't choose to drive 2 hours to a flight school. They're probably gonna pick one closer to their house. You know, had he said to me, "It's on my dresser at home. Do you mind if I call home and have my mother or my wife or somebody drive it up here?" I would have accepted that. I would have said,
Hmm.
"You're telling me you have it. Okay, we'll get started. Before we hop in the airplane, I will need to see that pilot certificate." Had he said to me, "Oh my gosh, when I got my flight instructor certificate, I just had a stupid moment. I thought this was my new pilot certificate. I threw my other one away." Well, okay. There is a process that you can go onto the FAA website and basically say, "Hey, I lost my certificate." They will email you a letter instantaneously that
Yeah,
I think is good for, I don't know how long this letter is good for, but it's basically a get out of jail free card. It tells
it
you
is.
it.
It is,
I,
and it's very easy. And the other thing is, say you just lost your certificate. You lost it, or the common theme on replacement certificate replacements is change of address, which we all know we have to do that. Um, this isn't the month-long processing. You already have your certificate. So real quick, when you become a new or you get a new certificate or rating or whatever, it's going to take about 4 to 5 weeks because it has to go to Oak City, get processed, and then they'll issue. This is not the case. You will have a certificate typically within 10 to 14 days. If you just straight
yeah,
up lost it, so that letter, I would venture to say, is, I'm guessing, but probably 30, maybe 90 days, but
yeah,
definitely enough time to
yeah,
request the replacement being mailed.
yeah.
And
So,
that's only
you know,
$2. It's $2 to get a new
yeah,
certificate. It's nothing. This is
yeah,
not expensive.
yeah, yeah. Um, and so I was shocked that this CFI did not know that he had to have his pilot certificate with him. So just throwing that out there, I think what we as examiners want to see is we want to see decision making, problem solving, all throughout the check ride. I mean, we talked about earlier weight and balance situations where we're overweight, and rather than just say no, we can't make the flight. Let's see what we
Yeah.
can do to fix it. Going back to the losing the certificate thing, I'll tell you a funny story. I lost my wallet many years ago, and so I had to do this with the FAA, and so I had to replace all my certificates, which I happen to hold a flight engineer certificate, a ground instructor certificate. So I had to pay. But anyway, I had the letter, and uh, I got a route check by an FAA examiner flying for United. And so again, all I had was the letter with me. And so he came in and he said, "Okay, I need to see your certificates." And I told him, I said, "Well, I don't have a pilot certificate with me." And he looked at me like, "What?" And I showed him the letter, and yeah, we both got a kick out of that. So it was all good. It was perfectly good. All right. What else?
Um, on that note, just what this when I became an examiner, again, I'm newer to this DPE role. I've been involved in GA my whole life. However, I came on and everybody we would give DPE and CFI forums, right? And it wasn't check ride failures. It was this just to follow on to the qualifying of the applicant. I had them all raise their hands, and I said, okay, keep your hands raised until I say, however it was, and you, if you don't qualify, lower your hands. So I had a room of about 20 to 30 CFIs. It was myself and another DPE. They said, okay, everybody raise your hand. All right, who has been, keep your hands raised if you've been an instructor for a year. Keep them raised if you've been an instructor for 18 months. So slowly at that point, hands get dropped. Okay, who's been an instructor? Who's the 24-month instructor who can sign off the initial CFIs? And there's, I'd say, three or four hands were still raised. Um, and then I said, who's been an instructor for, over the 2 years? And again, it was that three people type thing. And I said, okay, you three, when was the last time you had a flight review? Just a biennial flight review. And that's when kind of the quizzical, that's when the room got quiet and everybody said, what, everybody's thinking, what's Jason getting at? And I said, I assume you've done, seeing as you have and you're actively teaching, I assume you've done your flight instructor renewal or your FERC, right? And that one of them said yes. One of them, or the other guys were like, no, 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 we did it on recency. We just became gold seals. So you don't have to, right? Numerous ways to renew your CFI. Um, and I said, but did you have a flight review? Whoever the three or the four, whichever hands were raised, they all thought the refresher course or the flight instructor renewal lateraled and qualified for the flight review. So, which is not the case. So what Wally was getting at before, you have a pilot certificate, you have a flight instructor certificate. This flight instructor is only valid if this puppy is valid. So private pilot Checkride 101, how do you maintain your legal status as a pilot? That is a flight review every 24 months or a check ride, or et cetera, et cetera. That flight review, you have to do it. So I won't say anything after more than that, but my point is make sure those you guys that have been CFI, you have every rating under the sun. You have everything. Well, and I just renewed my CFI. That doesn't mean to say you renewed your pilot certificate. Two very different things. So go back in there and see when your flight review was done. The bigger flight schools, it's not funny. It's actually kind of sad. I'm sure you're proficient. I'm sure you're current, but are you legal? That's the takeaway here. Are you legal? And the
Yeah.
bigger flight schools, unfortunately, they don't allow their flight instructors to rent. Like nobody rents aircraft. So unless they allow currency, unless they do stage checks with kind of one another, go check your last flight review, guys. And that flight review, that's either a new certificate and it's 24 calendar months from then, or simply when was the last anything. Now, your latest CFI, that's going to reset it. And that's my point of that. Typically, your double I, your MEI is typically your last certificate. Well, if that was over
Yeah.
2 years ago and you haven't done a flight review, you guys might need to go do that because you are teaching and everybody you taught in theory, that's none of that's valid because simply
Yeah.
you are not valid. So keep that in the back of your head.
And
Everybody forgets about that.
and has that caused you to not do any check rides?
Not a lot, but I'd say four or five.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
typically the guys that are, I found it in the big ones are, um, the CFIs that are coming for their MEI and they've been, say, a CFI double I for a long time. And then it's the other ones that are, they're just typically you catch it on the multi-engine stuff. Um, if they're getting their add-ons, or say they're multi add-on, they've been flying for a long time. And where that's going is they've been flying for a long time. They don't have a flight review. I see it. And then they'll say, well, okay, I'll just get the instructor to sign me off in the twin. You're not rated in that twin. That, yes, you're being trained, and I have no doubt you're current, you're proficient, but unfortunately you're not legal. You can't count that because you are not rated in that airplane. You would have to have done training in a single. That counts for your flight review. And you don't need a flight review in a
Right.
single and a multi. It's one or the other. But if you're not rated in the aircraft, you can't use that training to count for the single and vice versa type thing. So it hasn't been a lot.
Right.
It's kind of that little niche thing, but due to the fact that hiring at the regionals and at the airlines corporate whatever has slowed, the flight instructors and these pilots have there hasn't been the turnover, right? So I
Right.
would say not in hindsight, normally guys are hired right at that 2 year mark or 18 months, 24 months. So once you get to the airlines, your flight review is taken care of because we do it every 9 months. That's a
Yeah.
non-event. But the
Right.
all I'm getting at, because hiring has slowed, now I'm seeing this as a little bit more of an issue.
Yeah, yeah. And when we, I think we talked a little bit about a system that we do called designee management system. We call it DMS. It's another computer system, a little bit like IACRA, that we have to use to get pre-approval and for a check ride. We also have to do a post-flight report. So once we have a check ride sitting in the queue to be approved, we've got to close it out. And I think if we go more than 7 days without closing it out, we can't get in the system. We're locked, basically locked out. So when we finish a check ride, or when the check ride date has passed, we have to go in and do something. And so if we have a check ride that is scheduled, we have to go in and say, what happened? Why did we not finish this check ride? We got to give a
Hmm.
reason too. So this is tracked by the FAA. And they look at things like this, and I saw a number at one point, but and I don't know, it's like 18% of scheduled check rides don't happen because of these types of things. And I could be
I
way
think
off on
that's
that
the
number.
quote is what, applicant not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that not ready is that could be you didn't meet the FAR requirements, like you're missing zero point 0.5 of night, you didn't have the documents. It's a litany of stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the applicant not ready is the drop down.
Yeah. So it is tracked, and they actually use that to kind of say, well, do we really need more examiners? Is the key to get more examiners, or is the key to do a better job of qualifying the applicant before they even show up on check ride day? And maybe, if we do that, we're gonna gain 20% availability, or 18%, or whatever the number is. All
So
right.
just to well, real quick to follow on that, just to tag, we hit this at one of the very, very early episodes of Check Ride Chat, qualifying the applicant. A lot of this can be solved. I really like it when they have kind of the check ride binder, right? They
Yeah.
slide this over. Everything's in the binder, right? Um, but that kind of falls back to the CFIs. If you can have things organized, ready, tabbed, it's really not a lot. But if you can have those things tabbed out, it makes the qualification process, that audit, and we're kind of the last line of defense as DPEs. We audit to make sure you are in fact qualified. You've met all the FARs, et cetera, et cetera. If you can have all that stuff tabbed and easy to find, that's the key. And to piggyback what Wally said, not that I don't want to, but it is not my job to go through 1,500 hours and find this cross country, that cross country, these piecemeal landings across the board. Here, where's my 10, full stop landings? That's not
Yeah.
our job. And all that does is if we have those two check rides back to back, now you're just delaying the next check ride. So if you can have it clean and audited, that's they if you can make it almost like one line entries. Here's Pick commercial. Here's my daytime, 2 hour cross country. Here's my nighttime. Just there it is. There it is. Here's
Yeah.
my 10 takeoffs and landings at night to a full stop. There they are.
Yeah.
If you can make it very, very clean in the logbook, I don't want to have to go, here's point two, here's point five
Right.
over a year of flight time. That's simply just going to take a long time.
Yeah, and we're gonna wanna see the entries. We're not gonna wanna see in a spreadsheet that you got 3.2 of nighttime. You know, a lot of people say, "It's right here, 3.2." No, okay, let me see it because we need to see
I need
across
to
country.
see the actual
And
log.
yeah,
That could be a whole other topic on the four
yeah,
flight logbook.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
you print out the expanded four flight logbook, not the condensed, please.
right, right, and, same with the airplane, you know, when I say, "Well, when was the annual?" "May 1st of 2025." "Okay. Where is
Where
the
is it?
endorsement?" Yeah, I
Show
wanna
me.
see the endorsement where the inspector, signed off the airplane.
Yep,
Um, this episode is gonna go out sometime. We are recording, when is it? It's, March 9th.
March
So
9th.
this episode is gonna go out sometime this week. If you happen to be in Houston, Texas, next week, a week from today, there is gonna be a
Monday.
show of rock stars at, Galaxy FBO in Conroe. Tell us what's going on next Monday, Jason.
So we're host. There's actors four named, but there's actually going to be five DPEs from the Houston area showing up. Um, so it's going to be on Monday, March 16th. Is that a Monday? So a
Yeah,
week from today, yeah, Monday, March 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Galaxy FBO at Conroe, which you identify as Charlie X-Ray Oscar, 5 to 7 p.m. It's a CFI DPE forum. We're going to review ACS. I think it's going to turn into a litany of question answer scenarios and just topics. But there's going to be myself, Wally, Rick Rawlings, Jeff Kling, and then I'm saying the fifth because I don't know if he's going to show, but he might show, so we'll leave him out for now. But you're going to have at minimum four DPEs to absolute just pick your brain. No, it's not a webcast, so you have to come in person. But yeah, it's going to be there. So everyone's invited. We capped it, I think, at 55 or 60 people because that's quite a lot. But we're hoping everybody shows up and we can hash out some topics, if you will.
yeah, so you can go to, the FAA safety team website and register, is that right?
It
Yeah.
is. It's under the Fast Team. You have to register. So I'm the Houston Fast Team Pro. So it's if you just search CFI DPE forum for the Houston area, you're gonna find it. You'll probably see my name as the Fast Team Pro, and
So
that's
one
where you're
thing
gonna go.
I would say is, but here's the problem, Jason, 5 to 7, that's dinner time.
Oh, but there's gonna be pizza. It's all good.
Oh, so we're
Pizza,
feeding
water,
them.
and iced tea. We
We're
are. We
feeding.
are.
Okay. And hey, this is we're in daylight savings time now. So if you want to fly up from someplace in Houston, you can probably still fly back and it'll still be daytime. So
Yep.
anyway,
And you can, and the Galaxy ramp's massive. Just tell them you're
yeah,
here for the seminar.
yeah,
And there you go. But yep,
yeah.
that's pretty much what that is.
All right. Well, we're 20, I don't know, a little over 20 minutes into this. Again, this was going to be a short one. We'll take a dive back into the ACS next time, but I think we're good for today. What do you say, Jason?
Yep. No, very, very good. Let's tangent very, very quickly back because I can do it. The guys and girls that are applying to regionals, um, that have been flying for a while, do yourself a favor. Go track your flight reviews. When I audit, so when I do interviews at United Airlines, there's a lot of military personnel coming through right now. Their logbook's totally different. But when I see a traditional interview, when I see kind of quote unquote new hires from the civilian sector, most of the interview team, if I'm on for the day, they throw me the logbooks because they know I know what I'm looking for, type thing. Do yourself a favor, go track down to make sure you have your flight reviews current and in line. If you whether you did it and didn't log it, that's one thing. Go backwards and log it. You know you did it. Maybe you just didn't get the sign off. But
Yeah.
go in there, and unless you've been having check rides at a regional or something to that effect, the guys and girls that have been flying somewhere, uh, make sure you have those flight reviews in a line, and it's every 24 months. So either a check ride or a flight review. Make
Yeah.
your complex endorsement, your high performance, whatever it might be, that can count if it was done. It doesn't have to be separate. That can count. It just, you did ground and you reviewed a whole bunch of stuff and you went and performed a checkout in this new aircraft, just new air insurance checkouts at a flight school. The flight portion counted. Did you happen to do some ground? It's think about it
Yeah.
kind of that way and make sure you're legal and make sure your ducks are in a row.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Cool.
again, hit subscribe down there and tell your friends about us. And hey, if you come to the CFI DP forum, we may even have some stickers and stuff. So anyway, if you're into
Cool.
that kind of
And
stuff.
paper.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Have a good one.